everyone, and welcome to Clocking In, Labor and Employment News for Government Contractors. I'm Nicole Atala, partner at PilieroMazza, and I am here today with my partner,
Sarah Nash. Hi, everyone.
And today we're going to talk a little bit about the Drug-Free Workplace Act. I know it's been around for a hot minute or two, and everybody thinks they know what's in there, and yet inevitably we get consistent questions about what the Drug-Free Workplace Act requires, particularly because employees can't seem to pass drug tests these days. So, Sarah, principal question, does the Drug-Free Workplace Act require pre-employment drug testing?
Nicole, thank you. Thank you for this softball question coming into the day. I actually love this question because it's confusing, right? But no, the Drug-Free Workplace Act does not require pre-employment testing. The only things that are going to require pre-employment testing are going to be your contracts. So if your contract specifically requires, or certain regulations generally, for certain safety sensitive positions could also require drug testing prior to employment and random testing and reasonable suspicion testing. But Drug-Free Workplace Act doesn't actually require any of those. You don't have an obligation. You do have an obligation to make sure that folks aren't using drugs in the workplace. But other than that, you kind of have discretion on how you manage that process.
What other components of the Drug-Free Workplace Act should clients keep on their mind?
So the important things to remember when it comes to this act are, there's a few. First of all, you want to have a policy in place, a drug-free workplace policy that makes clear that employees are not to use, distribute, or in any way sell drugs while performing government work or while on a government work site. So that's really the most important piece. You also want to make sure that you are disciplining employees who violate this requirement. That doesn't necessarily mean termination, but there does need to be some type of discipline in your policy. You're also expected to provide resources for individuals who have trouble with drug addiction. Generally, this can be accomplished through certain employee assistance programs, if you have those. But you generally want to be aware of the fact that, drug addiction is a problem. That's part of what's encompassed within the law. Another sort of quirky requirement is that you must alert the agency if you have an employee who is convicted of a drug-related act while performing work or while on a government site within 5 days of that conviction. A lot of folks misinterpret this requirement, think that it requires notice within 5 days of an arrest or 5 days of a conviction unrelated to workplace drug use. But really, it's just that very specific nuanced requirement.
And again, this doesn't mean that you can't require pre-employment testing in most states, but you also, again, we're always harping on this, you have to reconcile state and federal law here, right? And there are a growing number of states that prohibit pre-employment drug testing in its entirety. There are courts that talk about, accommodations for people that, use marijuana and things like that for medical use. And I think, Sarah, you were going to say something.
Well, I was going to say, so most of these state laws don't prohibit pre-employment testing in totality, but it is specific to marijuana. So a lot of these states, you've got New York City passed a law, DC recently passed a law, localities. A number of states limit your ability to test for marijuana, which makes sense, right? Because it's a growing kind of pattern where marijuana use, both medicinally and recreationally, has been permitted in a lot of states. And so a lot of states are also cracking down on employers' ability to screen out applicants because of that use. So yes, states are prohibiting your ability to statutorily to test for marijuana pre-employment. Most states do have an exception, so that exception will apply to contracts that require pre-employment testing. However, remember, the first really topical question, does the Drug-Free Workplace Act prevent pre-employment testing require pre-employment testing? No, it doesn't. So you can't really rely on that piece of the legislation to defend your practices.
Yeah, and courts have specifically called that out. That's been a specific defense in several cases. So parting thoughts for our clients or government contractors out there that might be listening to this is now is a really good time to take a look at your drug-free workplace policies and practices. Make sure you're aligned with, company objectives, state law, and the Drug-Free Workplace Act. There are ways to make all those puzzle pieces fit together and achieve what you're trying to achieve, but we don't want you to run afoul of any law, and also find the flexibility that you might need to hire the best possible applicants for the job.
Absolutely.
Thanks for listening today.
Bye, guys.